Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all sitting comfortably. Minty here. This is Minty's Gig Guide stream number 3. Thank you if you've been following us over the past couple of days. Looking to try and do a stream a day if I can. And this evening isn't a stream that I wanted to be bringing you at all. For those of you who are aware, earlier this afternoon, we've kind of dropped everything to start a special piece of programming off here this evening called Tramshed Cardiff What's What. Earlier today, Tramshed Cardiff, TEG MJR, the tenant of Tramshed in Cardiff, released a statement saying that Tramshed's future was in severe jeopardy by planning applications during this really challenging time for everybody under the circumstances of COVID-19 and the absolutely devastating effect that's not only had on lives, but also on businesses and also on livelihoods. It also goes on to say that Tramshed, which is one of Cardiff's most loved venues, as you just saw there, the iconic Idols from April last year. I had such an amazing occasion there watching that go down live. It was wild, and anybody watching this will know just how wild that particular show was. They go on to say that Tramshed, one of Cardiff's most loved venues, is facing an additional threat from 2 planning applications that severely jeopardize its future. DS Holdings, which is the current landlord of Tramshed, have submitted plans to build T2, which is a 4-story building in Tramshed's car park. This car park is used daily for Tramshed events for artists to safely for artists to safely park up to 3 tour buses and trucks filled with equipment for events. Parking on the streets around Grangetown is already challenging for local residents, despite multiple previous objections by the operators of Tramshed to previous similar plans. There have been no viable options offered to where vehicles could be safely accommodated nearby to allow the venue to continue to operate. We greatly respect the work DS Holdings have done across South Wales, bringing new life into disused buildings and invigorating the surrounding area. They go on to say, we've engaged with DS Holdings to provide the guarantees that we need from this development to ensure the future of Tramshed. Unfortunately, we have not been able to obtain them, so I have no option to object to the development and encourage others to do so to protect Tramshed. As I say, this is not a story that I wanted to be bringing you this evening, but you know, when things go down in our capital city, we have to talk about them. And I just want to say from the off as well, whilst I'm very supportive of grassroots music venues, there are always 2 sides to every story, and I'm going to be treating this one right down the middle. We have asked both the tenant, representatives of TEG MJR, to come onto this broadcast. We've also asked for the landlord, DS Holdings, and the representatives from there to come onto this broadcast. I'm delighted to say, whilst we're still hopeful that the landlord will come on and chat to us, that we can now go to Caroline Archer, who is the venue manager for Tramshed Cardiff. Caroline,
hi.
Good evening. Hello, how are you doing?
Yeah, really good, thank you.
You've always
had me on.
Not in these circumstances.
No, it is really, like, we really appreciate your time this evening, and as much as appreciate that you're going to be down the middle, it's just nice to have your support and at least a platform to have this conversation.
I need to come first and just ask you, like, how are you keeping during? I always ask everybody, like, how are you keeping during COVID? Are you one of these sort of snug bugs that sat there in front of the TV watching Netflix?
No, I've been quite smug, been out running, I'm afraid, doing some baking. No, I'm joking. I've mainly just been planning, putting stuff in place for when we can reopen, trying to work out how we can do that as quickly and as safely as possible. Like you, just really missing gigs at Tramshed, but also across the city, definitely feeling the loss.
A very weird and challenging time, so it is as well.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
going to ask as well, maybe you don't have the information for this, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. What sort of impact does COVID-19 have on Tramshed as a business? Have you got any figures yet in terms of losses? I mean, you know, Twin Atlantic were due to play the evening that the lockdown was announced, and they actually pulled the entire show on the day whilst in the venue and we're sound checking.
Yeah, that was a very challenging day for us. I think we got the announcement for the cancellation about 4 o'clock, due to open the doors at 7. And that was the beginning of it all, really. So in terms of measuring the loss, it's not over yet. So it's really difficult for us to say what the overall loss will be. Obviously, there's going to be a huge knock-on effect as we try and reschedule everything we had in this quarter into the next safe available dates, pushing then things on again into next year. So it's going to be a long-lasting impact on the business. We're really lucky that the company have furloughed all of us, including all of the 0-hour staff. So we're all protected, as employees, which is brilliant. And we do feel really supported by the larger company. But this is the beginning of it, really, for live music. There's no easy option. It's going to be a while until people want to be back in, full capacity, which is essentially where we make the money. So we'll see. Difficult to measure it at the moment. We're lucky to have the backing of TEG now, which kind of is going to allow us to weather the storm better than we maybe would have before, better than maybe some of the independents will be able to, which is just really like heartbreaking when you think about the impact it's going to have on the wider scene in Cardiff. It's at the moment it's difficult to know what that's going to look like.
Tramshed itself, the venue, started in 2015. We all remember it, and all remember the celebrations around such an amazing cultural hub, slap bang in the heart of Grangetown, a part of the city that people feel so passionately about, and quite rightfully so.
Absolutely.
As everybody has a different sort of view and take on Tramshed, the way it's run, the way that they celebrate that, the way they're critical of that. What's Tramshed to you, Caroline?
Tramshed is my second home now, obviously, but even before I worked there, it was super important to me. To see a venue like that, of that quality, of that size, opening in this city was incredible. From Bristol originally, and I was really spoilt for choice for venues and live music growing up. And then when I came to Cardiff, obviously, just always felt that gap in the venue scene here. I can remember driving past it as a building site and being so excited, and then to end up running it has just been a complete dream come true. I live in Grangetown myself, literally a stone's throw from the venue, so I'm a local resident of Grangetown, and I can just see the positive impact that it has on the community, on the surrounding businesses, and just for the morale of the community. I think it's just really nice for us to have something here that is a shining light of good music and good culture in Cardiff.
So I'm going to come straight into it because, we can dress it up however much we want to. But the whole reason that we're here is because you've released a statement, and the organization that you work for has released a statement earlier today, pretty much directly at your landlord DS Holdings. I saw this article surface on Wales Online probably about 12 months ago. In fact, I think it was. Yeah, it was. It was June last year, with this particular drawing saying that development was coming to Tramshed. And I just remember looking at that and being like, oh, wow, that looks a little bit, bit out of place.
It's a big building, yeah.
It is, yeah. I just want to come in and say, that the article said via the landlord DS Holdings that Cardiff was in desperate need for office space in sustainable locations. So, I do feel like there is perhaps a need for that in Cardiff, like an office space as such. I know that Tramshed already has the tech studios and open collaborative working spaces. And I think it was just more sort of to elaborate on that and build on that. I mean, as you've just sort of alluded to there, that's not particularly, a build that looks attractive first to the eye, but you can kind of understand sort of the idea behind it, and sort of bringing office spaces to an area where there are already 30 flats, I believe, if I'm right in saying, in the venue, or certainly not in the venue, but down in the actual building.
In the complex, in the Tramshed complex.
Sure. And then those plans were amended to this in June 2019. Which is the sort of amended version of that.
Sure.
I'm not entirely sure how it's going to look now, because Cardiff Council website has been crashing all day, probably down to your statement, I would imagine.
It's nice to see the immediate impact that statement had, and it's nice to know that we've got a lot of people who really support us and that apparently flooded that website straight away.
But I did see plans surface the other day via an article on Voice Wales, with photos such as this one, which look very similar to the photo that I've just shown, and this one too. Whilst we don't have the landlord here from DS Holdings, I would like to read, if I may, an extract from a comment that was given to Wales Online in June of last year, because I think it's really appropriate. I have asked the landlord to come on. I'm really hopeful that at some point we will speak. The door will always be open for discussion, because that's the only way that resolution comes. So the comment says, this is from last year on an article on Wales Online. The response was, we have listened to the community and their concerns, and we have reduced the new building to the level of the Tramshed and kept it away from the Tramshed building. We will help the operators as much as we can with our contacts in Cardiff Council to look at alternate arrangements. It will make no difference whatsoever to the Tramshed. Following the closure of the venue in Leamington Spa, I believe that's a reference there to an MJR venue, we're looking for rapid reassurances from them. We're committed to keeping the Tramshed there. Whatever happens, it will survive. Now, as you've already said there in your statement, Caroline, you said, we greatly respect the work that DS Holdings has done across South Wales. So my question to you is this, right? If I've invested all of my time and all of my effort and all of my money investing into a cultural hub such as Tramshed, why would you think that I would want to sabotage you?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And I think that is kind of where the emotion really comes into this, because it does feel very unnatural to sabotage the business, like you say. I do really genuinely, and all of us do here, respect the work that DS have done across this city and in Newport, and I know that they can bring really good development to buildings that need it. I just think that in the case of Tramshed, that development has been done and it is operating in a really successful way at the moment, and that any further development on the site would be overdevelopment. I know that statement refers to the old plans, but not a huge amount has changed with the new plans. And to say that Tramshed will survive no matter what is not really fully accurate. We're already suffering a period of closure at the moment during the COVID crisis, and we are weathering that storm. But I can't see how we can weather another period of closure, which the building work would inevitably cause.
Yeah, I mean, I emotionally reacted to the news the other day, and I called it despicable, and part of me resents myself for that, because this is someone who's put a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of investment into that place, and to be called despicable for kind of, but it does seem that way because we're currently under, the circumstances of COVID-19, the people behind DS Holdings are very aware of the current state of play, I'd imagine, with culture. These are people who have redone out Newport Market, the Pump House in Barry, countless other
amazing projects.
Yeah, preserving landmarks that deserve to be there, and part of me wishes that, this particular landlord was the landlord of Guildford Crescent about 18 months ago, because that would have been very handy indeed. But I kind of, coming back to where I was at with that, it does very much seem that during COVID-19, this is a real pressure point where businesses are perhaps not thinking about things properly, thinking about their own lives properly. It does seem that way. What's your view on it?
I mean, the timing feels horrible at the moment, whilst we're already under siege, like you say. I think that, it's a very delicate situation for us, because we have got an ongoing good relationship with DS and we'd like that to continue. It just doesn't feel like the lines of communication have been open enough, and we haven't had any guarantees to kind of quell the worries that we've had from the first round of application through to this one.
Okay, so let me just interrupt you there. So those particular plans that we just saw there, what was the result of that? Because we heard about it for a little while and then it dissipated. What was the result of that? Did it get objected? Was it rejected, I should say? What came as a result of those plans that we saw last year? And when did you receive the plans that we're all, very much aware of now?
The second set we became aware of at the same time as you did. With the old plans, as far as I'm aware, they were withdrawn. There wasn't enough information at the time. And we did put an objection in at that time. We raised concerns, and since then we haven't had that stream of conversation that would be needed to kind of satisfy those concerns. And
okay,
I think
what are those concerns? We need to reel us in. What concerns, what concerns do you have as a venue now because of sort of build like this?
Sure. So in the original plans, there was no provision made for car parking at all. I believe in the new plans, there is some parking available. However, we still don't have a guarantee that that's going to be sufficient to satisfy the needs of the business. So just to give you an idea, for an average gig, we'll often have 2 nightliners in, 2 big tour buses, and then maybe the support van will bring in another van. We've got all the parking then for our staff, for our security teams. We may get a beer delivery on that same day, so that'd be an Arctic lorry coming in. And at the moment, we're able to be completely self-contained in that way. And none of that will spill out into Grangetown, impacting the traffic or the parking. Whether there is minimal parking for us in the new plans or not, that is still going to have a knock-on effect to the wider community. Parking tour buses outside the front of the venue on Penderry Street just doesn't feel like a viable option. It's what we use at the moment for queuing. And as you know from other venues which don't have parking, it really does pose a lot of issues. May kind of limit the amount of bands that we're able to have in, might limit the calibre of bands that we're allowed to have in, if we can't provide them that secure space that they need. And, on a wider sense, it's going to have such a negative impact on the Grangetown community that as part of that community ourselves, it's really difficult for us to support it. Regardless of how it impacts our business, it is going to have knock-on impact on the wider community. And I can't at the moment see what benefit it's going to have to the community. I can't see how Grangetown as a community will benefit from that additional office space.
Okay, and so as a result of this planning application, what sort of worries have you had going forward? You've briefly mentioned to me earlier on today that you've been receiving noise complaints from the residents above the venue, because as I've just said, there are 30 flats there in Tramshed. So I'm not sure. I think that there's no apartments now in the amended version, if I'm right in saying, but I'm sure you'll correct me. I didn't see it. I just saw office there. But what sort of concerns have you already got that will be carried forward, if this development were to take place?
Sure. I mean, noise is a huge part of it. So on the whole, we do have a really good relationship with the residents of the existing flats. But in recent times, we have had some complaints coming through, which is a big issue. And that needs to be addressed by the developer as well. The flats on the venue should be soundproof, so those noise leaks shouldn't be happening. As things stand, I can't see, with already issues continuing with the residents, how we're going to guarantee that those issues aren't going to roll on into whoever is occupying the new development, whether that is office spaces or living spaces. It's still going to be people who will want an element of quiet, and we as a music venue can't necessarily guarantee that.
There's absolutely no way you could police that, especially with people entering and exiting the venue or coming outside for a cigarette. I mean, you're talking to someone here now who literally bathing gigs. I love gigs so much, right?
I'd hate to try and keep you quiet outside a gig.
You're just not going to. If I'm queuing to come into your venue and, it's a band I'm excited for, I'm going to be loud about it. I'm going to, banter with my friends about it. It's going to be something that I'm really hyped up for.
It's part of the experience.
Yeah. And on my way out, if I've just seen one of the best performances of my life, like that Idols shot I just threw up there, there's absolutely no way I was quiet when I walked out the venue that evening, nor was anybody, and you can't police that, and you can't 1984-esque that and say, excuse me, you need absolute silence the moment that you walk through those doors to leave to go home or to queue to come in. If you're just joining us, this isn't the stream that I wanted to be bringing you this evening. We're currently talking about a statement that was put out earlier on by Tramshed and TEG MJR, their tenants, citing urgent action required to you to support their the planning application that's just gone in from the landlord. I'd just like to quickly raise, if you would like to object or support or take a neutral stance with this planning application, please submit to development.management@cardiff.gov.uk, quoting the planning application's reference code 17/01744/MJR. The website's down at the moment, so I wouldn't bother trying to click the link in the comments. I've been trying to for hours, but we can't go on there. Just so you know as well, DS Holdings, the landlord, I have approached and asked to come onto this broadcast. I'm hopeful that that's going to happen. If it doesn't happen this evening, the door is always open, and I will entertain a discussion, in the future. I just want to find a resolution out of this, to be honest. It's a venue that we all feel so passionately about. It's a venue that is incredible, where you can go in and see a full live set with everything, bells, whistles, and all, in a very intimate setting. It's a very, very special place. I just wanted to bring up something actually from your statement, which I'd like to query. It says that the venue could be in severe jeopardy in the future and may imminently close due to two planning applications. So there's one planning application that I'm aware of. What's the other one?
So the other application is an application that we've had to submit. As a venue, our background has always been in gigs with standard gig timing, running through until say 11:30. And to be totally honest, the venue hasn't been fully profitable in that model. And so in 2018, we applied for and were granted 20 late licenses a year, which basically allow us to run club style shows with a 3 a.m. curfew. It is a different kind of, style of event for Tramshed, and it might not be to everybody's taste, but it's a hugely important part of the music culture in the city. And even more importantly for the venue, it is profit making, and it allows us to then put on some of the smaller events and some of the less profit making gigs that we all love attending. We had to submit a planning application to allow us to continue to run these, despite the fact that we've been doing them for a year already without any major incident. And if that is refused, it is going to really make it difficult for us to continue to operate the venue, because we'll be losing such an important revenue stream. So it's been a bit of a kind of double whammy for us over the last couple of weeks. Not only have we had that issue with our own planning application, but now to have the development in the car park coming through, it just feels like we're being attacked on both angles whilst we're not able to open. And we're genuinely concerned for the future of the venue. And it's not just our livelihoods as much as me and all of my team adore working there. It's just would be such a loss for Cardiff and for the music scene here and in South Wales.
I'm going to bring you a statement now that comes from the Shadow Secretary of State for the DCMS, Shadow Culture Secretary, Jo Stevens, also MP for Cardiff Central. She says, I am lodging objections tomorrow on behalf of constituents who are very concerned about the future of Tramshed. And as Labour's Shadow Culture Secretary and a City MP who has put protecting live music at the forefront of my work in Parliament and in Cardiff since being elected, I am determined to try and protect as many venues as I can. That was the case before the COVID-19 crisis, and now it is even more vital. Can I get your thoughts on that, please, Caroline?
I mean, she's brilliant, isn't she? Such a great ally for the scene in Cardiff, and just really excellent to know that she's behind us and that, she'll be there for us as a support moving forward. And I know that she's been really crucial in lots of your campaigns in the past. So, we all love Jo.
I just want to say as well, I've also read in articles that have happened in certain previous months, last year on Wales Online, when it first came out, this planning application, the landlord DS Holding said that it was within the plans all along to build T2, as we're referring it. It's weird, this T2. It just reminds me of Terminator. Like, it's weird, the T2.
It sounds a bit more friendly than the drawings make it look, right?
So in previous discussion, the landlord DS Holdings has said that this has been in the plans all along to make this happen. Can I get your thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, I've only been in the company for a couple of years. So I had a chat earlier on just with the directors to find out what the situation's been kind of from the beginning. And as I understand it, I think they have been aware of the intentions to do further development on the site. However, under the understanding that would be in a way that was beneficial and workable for both sides, and that solutions would be found for things like parking and logistics and any closure periods, etc. And that part hasn't happened. So I think although they were aware that these plans might happen, they certainly didn't expect it to happen in such a way that they weren't consulted or weren't able to kind of contribute to decisions made around the planning.
And I just want to come back to that second planning application that you're referring to there. Why are you submitting a second planning application in order to put on 20 different club nights throughout the year? Surely that's a licensing issue.
I would have thought it would be a licensing issue, and it went through the correct procedures with licensing and was approved. We've got a really good relationship with Cardiff Licensing, and have worked with them over the last year to make sure that all the late events we've done have been really successful and past that major incident. I'm not sure exactly how and why, but an issue was raised to say that the late shows weren't part of our existing planning permission and therefore would have to resubmit them despite the fact we were already running them. That's been submitted, and although a lot of the parties that we work with are fully in support, such as licensing, we have had then issues raised by other members of the community and the developers, which have therefore made that planning application also in jeopardy, and really putting a lot of strain on us to work out how we're going to financially plan to come back from COVID and continue to make profit.
When you say in jeopardy, what's the current state of play of this plan and application to bring these? How many nights is it? Sorry, 20 is it, or is it
20? So 20
right.
nights a year is what we want to do. What we want to continue.
Okay, what's the current state of play of that then at the moment? Do you know?
Yeah, so we're going to have to go to hearing on that. So that will be happening in July. And again, I think it would be really helpful for anyone who would like to support our application in that, or who would like to support the venue, who understands that those nights are a crucial part of our profit-making entity and can see that we're running them in a way that is safe and that is secure for people. I mean, we have a lot of procedures in place to make sure that those nights have minimum impact on the wider community, but also that anyone who comes to those events is really well looked after. So we've got lots of policies in place to make, I think, our club nights some of the best, the biggest and the safest in the city. And if people want us to be able to carry on doing them, if they can put any messages of support towards Cardiff Council, we'll put some links out on our social media in the couple of days to follow to say how you can do that and how you can support us on that front as well.
I mean, could this development really be the end of Tramshed though? Couldn't the development just sort of happen and the venue just sort of, work alongside the landlord? Is it literally like, I'm sorry to swear, but is it shit or bust? Is it like literally you build it and that's us, that's it, we're done, that's us? Or is it like if you build it, we can't kind of work around it? Is there no way that the venue and yourselves as tenants could operate in that build the way that it's sort of been brought forward?
Mm-hmm. I would really like to think that there is a solution to be found whereby we can operate in unity. As it stands, I can't see that happening. And for a start, the period of the building work will be so detrimental to the operation of the venue. We would certainly need to limit the amount of gigs that we had or close for a period, and I don't know how we would survive that. I think we are more than open for conversations with the developers to try and make a solution that would work for both of us. And the last thing we want to do is to stop them from, making money and growing their business, because like we said, we do respect and support them. I think that also, I come back to it again, but I'm a Grangetown resident and I really care about the community here. And like I say, regardless of how it's going to impact us as a venue, we also really need to be aware of how it's going to impact Grangetown as a community. And until that point can be fixed, I can't see how we can really be hand in hand with them.
You've done, and I should say you also do several different nights for the community there in Grangetown. Is there an open mic night for the BME community there? And tell us a little bit about that. I didn't even know that was a thing. So
that's an amazing event. Where I'm coming from, it's run by two fantastic women, Duray and Hanan, and it's been going now for 2 years, I think, and it's just grown and grown in strength. And that's something that we're able to offer them for free. So we provide the space for free. We always have done, and we support them with whatever tech they need, etc. And there's other events that we do which are similar. We do an event which is all surrounded music for adults with mental health issues. We work with Learning Disability Wales, and we do all of these events either at a free or a heavily reduced cost because we're able to create the profit from other events such as the club nights. So we really do need to be able to run the business in the way that we are to be able to carry on doing so.
And I mean, that's happening across the board, across Cardiff. I mean, for those people who think that places like the Moon and Club Bach are making solid money to keep the places open by the gigs that they're putting on, are sorely mistaken. It is the club nights that are keeping these venues alive, and we need them, and we need them to happen in order for venues to stay open. I've got to say, I'm really nervous about this entire situation, and which is why I had to bring it out and for us to explore it this evening. You quote that 200,000 people attend Tramshed every year, and I know for a fact that, because I've spoken to them whilst I'm in the queue doing stuff for the guide, and that people do come from literally all over the UK, and depending on the acquisition of the talent that you've got on, whether it's an exclusive show or not, people will travel from absolutely anywhere to come to a gig in the Tramshed. And that worries me that, if it doesn't work for you in that venue, that it's not going to work for any tenant in that venue. Agree. And that's a really big worry for me.
Yeah, really absolutely. It's not just that, we're frightened to run a venue in a difficult circumstance. We've been doing that for years. It's just, if there is a building that close, if there's building work happening that close, I mean, for anyone who's aware or has seen the car park, it is not a big space, and it is going to make it incredibly difficult. The noise from the building is going to stop us being able to do sound check, and if there's sound restrictions the other way, it is going to be impossible for any operator to come in and run a venue there in a successful way. And I think my biggest fear would be that we weren't able to run a venue there and no one else was, and then what happens? Does that also development become something else, and is a music venue forever lost in Cardiff? And I just don't think we as a city could take a loss like that at the moment in our scene, which is already been under kind of horrible threat over the last.
We're literally bruised, battered and beaten in terms of like our grassroots music venues. We've lost so many over the past 18 months. I think I cited at 6. You go through them, let's name them: Goody Who, Buffalo, 10 Feet Tall. That's 2 venues there. That's the Big Top and Undertone, the Transport Club, which is just around the corner from you on Tudor Street, as well as I think and Dempsey's as well. But I mean, Dempsey's was a couple of years ago, but definitely within the 18 months. It hurts a lot, and those places are sorely missed. And place Goody Hugh, just a place that it can be replicated, but it currently isn't being replicated, and so we're missing out on so much there.
We as a venue really try to do as much as we can for like promoters coming through and for local bands coming through. So we run local sessions, which is a monthly live music night where we put on all local acts from Cardiff and the surrounding. And also, I mean, it's a shame that we haven't been able to operate them because of the COVID situation, but we were hoping to pull in a lot of the promoters that had been displaced through venue closures, such as Undertone and Goody Who, and offer them the smaller room upstairs in Tramshed to still continue to put those nights on. I was a promoter when I came to Cardiff, and I did all my nights in Buffalo and Undertone, and they were so crucial in building me into who I am now. And I wouldn't have been in this position now if it wasn't for those venues and learning to run events there, and making mistakes there and putting on amazing nights there. I don't know now, as a young promoter in the city, there are only so many places that you can put stuff on, and it's
true. And also the progression is something that I also worried about as well, not just from a touring basis, because I know you have a lot of touring bands in there, you have a lot of contracts with the big money promoters here in the UK, but also from a progression standpoint. I mean, you look at Boyazuga, for example, an act that started out Club Bach and the Transport Club, and is now sort of hitting those tier venues here in Tramshed. And I do worry that if we are losing venues at the grassroots, so people can't perform in those rooms, and then they can't even get a leg up into these sort of mid-tier venues, it's really going to have a substantial impact on on our Welsh music scene.
Absolutely, because they could cross over the bridge and be in Bristol and play in venues more readily, and it would be heartbreaking for us to lose promoters, bands, DJs, solo artists, people. If there isn't the spaces for them here, how do we keep them, and how do we make sure that talent stays in the city and helps us to continue to grow? It's a real scary problem, and I feel I'm struggling to remain composed when I'm talking about it, because it just feels terrifying. And I'd hate to think that this could be the beginning of the end of such an amazing space in Cardiff.
I just wanted to bring in Peter's comment. Thank you for people for commenting. If you'd like to submit a comment, we just want positive vibes right now. If you'd like to submit something in positivity, feel free to contribute in the comment box below. Peter gets on and says, I'm only down the road in Port Talbot, but visit Tramshed regularly. Best band venue for miles, in my opinion. Love the Craig Charles, Trevor Nelson nights. Love the Tramshed. Fingers crossed. Caroline Archer, you've spoken superbly well. And he called me a top man, but that's all right. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, nice. That's so nice. Isn't it great to have support like that? And I was super nervous before I came on, so it's really nice to hear that I haven't made a complete fool of myself.
I think as well, you just quickly mentioned there about sort of the challenges that we have here as a city. I feel like we're just getting there now as well with big money promoters in terms of like, you know, sort of, what's the word I need to use here? Like sort of like alluring them into Cardiff, because I think for a long time we had this issue where we were seen as like a sub city and like a, you know, a second tier tour city. And I know that Swansea are really challenging, you know, a city like Swansea are really challenging, a city like Newport are really challenging to, you know, to be recognized on those tours as well. And I feel like we're just about getting there with Cardiff, and I don't want us to get to that post and then have no venues to put anybody in. Like,
no, absolutely. Or for someone to come to the Tramshed, you know, who may not have been to Cardiff before, and then come and have a bad experience because they can't load in at the car park, they can't sound check until a certain time, there's noise coming from building work or whatever it is. You know, at the moment we're able to give bands a really good experience. They'll come back again and again. You know, we have bands that come back and that have sold out twice here. You know, they probably could have gone to a bigger venue, but they don't, because they want to carry on playing at Tramshed. And if we lose that momentum and lose, you know, the respect of bands and touring parties, then, you know, we could still be here, but we wouldn't have anybody come into play. So it's a real kind of multifaceted problem with, like, you know, there's a lot of ways in which this could damage us.
There are people dipping in and out of this conversation, this stream this evening, talking about the recent developments and also the recent statement put out by Tramshed saying that its future is in jeopardy following 2 planning applications. Once this video is ended, you can skip back and see exactly why that is. We won't get back and dwell any more onto that. I also just want to say that I'm treating this like right down the middle, and I want to hear both sides of this story. You know, we're hearing right now from TEG MJR, who are the tenants of Tramshed. And I've also invited DS Holdings, the landlord, on. The door is open and will always be open for conversation to do this. So I look forward, and I'm hopeful that that happens. There are people dipping in and out of this video. What would you say to them, Caroline? What would you like to say to people now? The platform is yours. Off you go.
I just would like people to have a look at the plans and really consider if you think it's viable for us to continue to operate with a building like that in our car park, to have a think about Grangetown as a community and whether this development's really going to benefit the people here and the businesses here. And if you agree with me and you think that as it stands that those 2 things don't go together, then please can you go to the website and object against the planning application. Following that, we'll be posting in the next few days about some of our challenges with our own planning application in regards to the late shows. And if you'd like to support us in that planning application, we'll put some details up about how you can do that. And yeah, hopefully we'll all be back at Tramshed really soon, enjoying gigs again, in whatever form that is in the coming months. But the support we've had already today has just been really overwhelming. I've been in tears twice today just seeing it, and it's yeah, it's brilliant. You know, I'm really proud to run such an amazing venue in our city, and I'm really proud to have such loyal and dedicated fans that we do. So yeah, just keep supporting us, and yeah, if you keep checking back to our Facebook, then we'll have all the details there about how you can do that.
I'll be following this one really closely for sure over the next couple of days and sort of the developments that come from this. Before we go, I just want to ask one final question. The landlord is watching this right now. Say they're watching this right now. DS Holdings are watching this right now. What are you saying to them?
I just think that a really open conversation needs to be had, and everybody needs to get around the table and have a honest conversation about whether this is going to benefit the venue, if it's going to benefit the community, and if there may not be a better space for this development to go into. And hopefully we can all continue to work together, because on a personal level, we've got a really good relationship. We really respect the work that DS do, you know, across our city and in other cities, and the work that they've done is admirable. So I just don't want to end up in some kind of, you know, unpleasant situation. I just hope that we'll be able to resolve this in in a positive way so we can all move forward. I think we've all taken a battering over the last couple of months, and it'd be nice if this could be resolved peacefully.
Thomas Dobbins is currently on as well. The Tramshed enables bands and artists, new and established, to share their talent with the people from Cardiff in a way that is unique only to that building. Names and faces such as Radio 2 Sarah Cox, Joe Wiley, Craig Charles are regular performers, allowing Cardiff access to talent that may otherwise be inaccessible. I also want to bring in Kelvin, who says, "Hi guys, never been to your venue. Was due to see Those Damn Crows in April. Has been rescheduled for October. Fingers crossed." You heard a lot of good things about Tramshed. Gutted if you have to give up. Good luck for the future. Finally, just want to bring in a comment from Robin. What issues should objections raise to be most effective? What are the material planning considerations? Thanks. Over to you.
I think just to be really simple and clear on that, it is going to be parking issues, traffic issues, and noise issues. Those are kind of the three headline issues that we're going to face. And then from a wider sense, the pinning in of Grangetown and whether overdevelopment on that site is going to be beneficial to the wider community.
The conversation continues and will continue throughout this week. I have absolutely no doubt about it. I just want to say a massive thank you for really giving us your time at such short notice this evening to discuss perhaps one of the most important issues we're going to face this year in terms of live music in Cardiff. I absolutely hate having these conversations. And I always, even though I try my best to be balanced, I always get a frog in my throat, when it comes to live music venues being at risk. And Caroline Archer from Tramshed, thank you so much for coming on this evening and chatting to us. And we wish you all the best. And hopefully some sort of resolve will come. And we'll wait to see what happens next. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Next time we'll have a conversation about something nicer.
Yeah, let's come on. We'll talk about tequila or something.
Yeah, sounds good to me. All right, thank you so much.
All the best. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Caroline Archer there from Tramshed. Well, as I say, the conversation will continue throughout the week and throughout this month, no doubt. If you would like to object or support or take a neutral stance with this planning application, please submit it to development.management@cardiff.gov.uk, quoting the planning application's reference code 17/01744/MJR. That's it. I'm out of time for this evening. We will be back tomorrow with what we actually scheduled for this evening, which is Asher. Asher is going to be here tomorrow. We've got a whole drawer of things to talk about, and I just can't wait to hear that wonderful voice. It's been so long. I just want to quickly say as well, the door is open, DS Holdings. If you would like to come on, if you'd like to talk to us, I won't allow any discrimination against you. The door is here. It is open, and I would like to hear your side of the story. That's it from me for tonight. I'll see you tomorrow with Asher at 8 o'clock. Nostar.